Hello and welcome back. It's Space Marine Week, boys. Patch 11 is here. New weapon variants, new armor skins, and new maps. Let's go over the notes, see what's changed since the PTS, and talk about our feelings. Just kidding. But feel free to leave your post-note clarity thoughts in the comments section below. Are you tired of paying full price for your video games? Do you consider it heresy? Fear not, as in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only savings. Space Marine 2 is currently on sale, 60% off until Thursday, December 4th. Now is your chance to throw on your power armor without committing financial treason against your wallet. Alrighty, first up, we have the new armor skins. We have here our Blood Angels Champion Pack. I know a lot of people are excited about this one. Pretty golden boys are here. They're shiny. Arm your tactical champion with a striking new skin. Wield a Blood Angels themed chainsword and dominate the fight with an exclusive assault jump pack. For all you Blood Angel and Sanguinius fans out there. Also, they have released the Salamander's cosmetic pack as well as the successor chapters. Salamanders fans rejoice. This looks pretty sick. Love the shoulder pads. The little brazier on the back is pretty cool. But they also released the successor chapters. So you're going to have the Black Vipers, the Covenant on Fire, the Dragon Spears, and the Dark Krakens. All right, next up we have the weapon and equipment changes. Let's get down to it. So for the equipment, new equipment, Sanctified Wrath. Upon use, the player's melee damage is increased by 25% for 15 seconds, and the player is immune to knockbacks. When used, enemies within a small radius are pushed back. What they changed from the PTS was increasing the amount of charges from 1 to 2. I don't know about you guys, but this felt very underwhelming, and I cannot justify giving up my crack grenades or my melt-a-bombs for it. I still think going up by 1 charge is... it's very meh. Is it better than running around empty? I suppose. But you're probably just better off keeping your grenades. Much more utility that way. As for the new heroic items, they have added 6 heroic weapon variants. For the heavy bolt pistol, the heavy bolter, the instigator bolt carbine, the bolt sniper rifle, the power fist, and the thunder hammer. Let's go down to the changes here. Let's see. Assault new feature. Added a set of jump pack dash attacks for the assault that are much quicker and responsive than the normal sprint attacks. Dash attacks should be affected by all perks that affect sprint attacks as well. Change from the PTS. Jump dash attacks deal 50% more damage. I feel like that's better than nothing, but you're better off just playing ground pound and saving your jetpack for the slams. I don't, I think the class needs a whole rework. I don't think this is really enough to make anything viable outside of ground pound. The little dash build, the gunshot build, sure, you can make it work, but it's just significantly worse than the ground pound. And this 50% damage, probably not going to help it a whole lot. We are going to continue expanding and improving sandbox gameplay for all classes. After Assault is going to be Tactical and Vanguard. However, those changes will not be in patch 12, as we would like to focus on Tech Marine. Interesting. Hopefully they don't just leave Assault here. I hope they come back and actually rework it, but we'll have to see. I wonder what's going to change for Tactical and Vanguard. How that gameplay loop is going to change. Back to the weapons, though. The Power Axe. The Chained Whirl Slash can now be performed after an overhead strike. The overhead strike damage has been increased by 50%. The perk Riposte became a default behavior. After performing a power backstep, hold attack to perform an overhead strike. So good. So you don't have to press the button anymore. It just does it. The perk riposte is changed. Overhead strike damage after a backstep is doubled. That's huge. And block versions can now enter power stance. The block power axe is going to absolutely pop off. I think this is going to become everybody's favorite weapon to use. The heroic double-edged relic, the chainsword. Trampling stride perk now works with a heroic perk combo. Double heavy combo can now be performed after a whirl/sprint attack. Is this going to be enough to make you guys start using the chainsword? Or do we still prefer the block? I feel like I still prefer the block chainsword. I don't know if this is going to be enough to make me switch. Heroic Power Gladius. Damage buff now lasts for 1 second after the first instance of damage instead of being wasted on a single enemy. The change from the PTS is they fixed the issue where the damage buff lasted indefinitely. So, that sounds busted. Lasts for 1 second after the first initial instance of damage. I mean, yeah, that's good. So you get like a little second chance to hit what you mean to hit, but is it going to be a viable weapon? I'm gonna have to see the numbers. I gotta see how practical it is to use the knife. I know everybody's seen the videos and everybody wants to one-tap a Carnifex, but how consistently are people gonna be able to do this? We'll have to see. Changes to firearms. The heavy bolt rifle, the base damage has been increased by 13%. It's a bit of an odd number. I don't know what that brings it up to, but I mean, it's a W. There's no negative, so more damage is more damage. If you like the heavy bolt rifle, you win. The heroic bolt rifle, damage increased by 15% for both bolter and melta firing modes. Again, another W. I don't see any downsides to it. The multi-melta. The change allowing players to shoot from the standing position immediately after firing from the blind has been reverted. The interval between shots is now enforced when transitioning to the standing position. So that little bug where people fire from the hip, switch to ADS, and fire again instantly, it looks like they removed it. Was that necessary? Was it really being abused? I don't know. I don't know if that was a good change, but that's an L for the multi-melta, man. That makes the gun that much harder to use. We'll see how it compares to the new heavy bolter and even the flamethrower. We'll see how that works. Bolt pistol damage increased by 13.5%. That's a W for bolt pistol. It's a huge buff. Volkite pistol base damage and Volkite explosion damage increased by 10%. Again, no negatives. Solid W for the Volkite. Will it bring the Volkite up to compete with the other pistols? We'll have to go in and test. I don't know, but 10% is 10%. As for the heroic weapon changes from the PTS, the heroic heavy bolt pistol, the gun strike damage has been increased by 20%. Add 6 ammo to max capacity. Are we being a little stingy? We're being a little stingy there. Shouldn't this be like 20, maybe 30? Dare I say 40? I feel like 6 is... What are we doing? Why are we adding single digits to the ammo capacity when we are already starved for bullets in this game? I think this is an L. This right here is an L. Heroic perk will now instantly kill enemies that are calling for reinforcement. This seems very niche. I don't see it being used a whole lot. Maybe if you're playing Chaos, because the Chaos Beasts are pretty hard to interrupt. Outside of that, I don't really see anybody using it. I'd have to see, or maybe even, what is it, Assault that does the gun strike damage increase? I don't know. We'll have to go in and test it, play with it, see how it is. I just don't see this being very useful against, like, the Tyranids. Maybe Chaos. Here's where everybody's gonna get sad. The heroic sniper bolt rifle. All ammo restore perks will not trigger when using this weapon. While it was clear that it is a very powerful weapon in the PTS, we don't want to reduce its effectiveness, but we do want to raise its skill cap. So I believe the only ammo restore that Sniper really has, if I'm not mistaken, is the Prestige perk, correct? So that's a big ouch. I'm just gonna say, if you guys choose to use this, you better be able to click on heads. If you can't click on heads, you are gonna be hurting for ammo. We probably won't see too many issues against Tyranids. You know, they all have really large heads, with the exception of the Carnifex. But the Chaos, I feel like people are gonna struggle. Shoot, sometimes I struggle headshotting the Chaos Space Marines, or those damn Zangor on the little surfboards. You might as well save your ammo, boys. If you pick this and you end up against the Chaos, best of luck, brothers. Heroic Thunderhammer. Assault's ground pound will also spawn a shock zone. Interesting change. I mean, it's not a negative, so I guess W Heroic Thunderhammer. Heroic Power Fist. The damage bonus for light attacks is increased to 200%. Increase the radius for Heroic Perk activation to 15 meters. Fixed an issue where sometimes the perk didn't activate properly. So damage buff, increase the range, and allegedly make it work properly. W Power Fist. Is anyone going to use this over the Block Power Fist, though? I don't think Bulwark is going to ever use this. Maybe Assault. Maybe Assault with the gunshot build. We'll have to see. Again, I just don't think it's not going to elevate the gunshot build above the ground pound. Heroic Heavy Bolter. This one I'm excited for. Works like a fencing weapon as originally intended. So, to my knowledge, first of its kind. This is going to make Heavy infinitely more tanky. Heavies rejoice. Brothers, we're here. And fix the UI display of accuracy value. So, the Heroic Heavy Bolter already has more offensive output because of its heroic perk. Now they're adding fencing to it, so your defense value goes up. I think Heavy got a huge W out of this update. Oh, and the Heavy Bolter got a damage. Oh no, that's sorry. False. That's the Heavy Bolt Rifle. It's still a W. Still a W, nonetheless. Let's see, what else do we got? What else changed here? We have some class changes. For Tactical, Signal Jammer, the perk has been reworked. It used to say enemies marked by the Auspex scan cannot call for reinforcements and automatically explode upon attempting to do so. Again, not a very wise use of your tac scan if you're using it just to stop a reinforcement. This perk seems kind of shit, I'm not gonna lie. I've never used it. I don't think it's a good perk. The new perk is after marking an enemy with an Auspex scan, the other enemies cannot call for reinforcements and automatically explode upon attempting so for 90 seconds. That's a little better. Now, if they happen to be in your scan already, then it prevents them from doing it. That's much better than having to hunt down who's calling for reinforcements and then exploding it. I still don't think it's gonna make me pick it over the other choices in the column. Moving on to Sniper. Precision targeting now perk works against Extremis and Terminus level enemies. Okay. Guardian Protocol removes the cooldown. And Ambush now also slows nearby enemies for 10 seconds. We'll have to go see. I don't remember exactly what these perks do. I feel like Ambush no one really uses. I feel like there's better perks in that tree. Guardian Protocol removed the cooldown. Now the perk works against Extremis and Terminus level enemies. That's a W. Moving on to Bulwark. Emergency Countermeasure cooldown is decreased from 90 to 45, so they cut it in half. Emergency Countermeasure is the perk that drops the shock field, if I'm correct. That's huge. The shock build for Bulwark is going to be, it's appearing to be more and more viable. It may not be the greatest build, but it's becoming a viable build. It looks like it might be pretty fun to play. We'll have to try it out. Vanguard. For too long, Vanguard's role has been to be the vessel for the squad's healing perks. With these changes, we want to reinforce range/melee hybrid playstyle, but we are not entirely done with Vanguard changes. We would like to take a closer look at his ability. The Grapnel Launcher. The damage now scales based on difficulty. So we're actually going to be able to hurt things in Absolute just by grappling them. That seems nice. I wonder how that damage scale works, though. Retribution. The perk has been reworked. It used to say, after you are grabbed or knocked back, you deal 30% more melee damage for 20 seconds. It will now say, when your ranged weapons magazine is empty, your melee damage increases by 25. Okay. I guess that's pretty decent. I don't know how often you're going to be running around with... You'd be leaving your magazine empty on purpose. Change from the PTS. The damage buff increased from 20 to 25. So we squeezed out an extra 25. Or an extra 5, sorry. Yeah, no complaints there. Moving target. The perk has been reworked. Each melee attack you land reduces the range damage you take by 5% up to 30%. If you do not land a melee attack for the next 5 seconds, the effect ends. The new perk, killing an enemy at a range of 30 meters or more, restores ability charge by 5%. That's huge. That's huge. I personally never used this perk. However, killing an enemy at a range of 30 meters or more. When would we use this the most? You probably wouldn't use this against the Tyranids much, because the weak enemies that you could get this really benefit from this perk are generally melee. The Gaunts are melee characters, so they'll be closer than 30 meters. However, against Chaos, this is sounding really good. How big are the groups of cultists? You can easily one-tap them with most guns. So this is probably going to be pretty big. This is a huge W for DPS on Vanguard. Tenacity. The perk has been reworked. It used to say, after killing 10 enemies within 5 seconds, Diving Kick's damage increases by 40% for 15 seconds. It now reads, after a ranged kill, Majoris level or higher enemy, Diving Kick's damage increases by 130%. Cooldown 15 seconds. Yeah, that seems pretty good. Obviously, this is going to be if you're using one of the bolt rifles, probably the Oculus. After a range kill of Majoris or higher level enemy. Yeah, you get a kill, then you zoom your way in with the Grapnel Launcher. Huge damage buff right there. Change from PTS. Fix the interaction between Shockwave and Tenacity caused by double damage scaling. So one of the perks was getting double damage. I mean, yeah, that seems broken, but it still seems strong. It still seems strong even after this change. Collateral damage increase damage by Diving Kick to 50%, and Inner Fire now works according to the description. All right, moving on to Assault. Active Attrition. The perk has been reworked. It used to say enemies hit by melee attacks take 15% more damage for 3 seconds. It's a pretty small window there. New enemies hit by damage from melee attacks executed while sprinting or dashing. Melee attacks take 25% more damage for 5 seconds. So again, if you're playing the dodge build on Assault, this will be pretty good, specifically for that build. Increasing it to 5 seconds. 2 seconds doesn't seem like a lot, but you'll definitely feel it while playing. And it just does more damage. So I guess overall, this is a W for the perk. I still just don't think it's the best perk to use. I don't think it's the best build to use. But if you want to mess around with other stuff, you want to add a little spice to your life, this might do it for you. All right, we are moving on to battlefield conditions. If I remember seeing up here, where is it? Right here, new battlefield conditions. More than 40 battlefield conditions have been added. The battlefield conditions are essentially the affixes that they've added to the stratagems. Adding 40 is crazy. That is a crazy amount. Hopefully they all work. I'm looking at you, Exfiltration. No equipment on Exfiltration. Looking right at you. Let's see. So some changes to the battlefield conditions. Great responsibility. They've increased the HP bonus from 100% to 150. That's pretty good. It'll give that person who has the debuff a little bit better of a chance of living. Retirement Barge reduced the HP debuff from 66 to 50. That's pretty decent, I guess. Nobody likes this. Nobody likes this. It makes you feel very squishy. But you get a little bit of health back, boys. Enjoy your 16% health buff. Poorly fitted suit, reduced damage by 33%. Equipment malfunction, restricted from appearing on the exfiltration mission. Yep. Okay. That's crazy that even made it in, but here we are. Surgical strike, buffed damage by 15%. And extreme challenge, increased the extremis spawn cooldown. Was this really an issue? I guess this was way harder when you're fighting the chaos. People seem to really struggle against the Terminators, but on the Tyranids, I found this quite enjoyable. It adds a lot of chaos to a lot of spice when you got 3 Lictors jumping on you during a Carnifex fight, and then all of a sudden 2 Raveners spawn. It makes it a lot of fun. But the chaos, I could see how this would be annoying, so I'm not really too bothered by this change, but I know all the tryhard people are going to be big sad at this. Moving on to quality of life. Everybody loves quality of life changes. Increase the netcode damage cap. This change is going to open a huge can of worms for gameplay balancing, but it has to be done. The game damage numbers should not be restricted by netcode and should be accurate all of the time. We will be monitoring which builds and perk combinations become problematic. It's pretty clear that some damage buff combinations with multiple sources are already insane. Looking at you blocking Power Fist. For now, have fun. Uh-oh, boys. Uh-oh, boys. Everybody's favorite weapon. Incoming nerf. Incoming nerf. Sniper damage buff from Cloak lasts a little longer to fully affect the entire burst of full auto weapons. Interesting. Okay, so Sniper gets a little W there. Improved sound indication for unparryable attacks. That'll be nice. A little bit easier to hear. Never an issue with improved audio. Fire Cannon heavy stance behavior with sprint now matches the other heavy weapons. Fire Cannon heavy stance behavior with sprint now matches other weapons. Somebody's gonna have to let me know what they're talking about here. I was unaware of anything with this. Let me know in the comments below. Customization AI. Chaos Spawn fixed headshots not registering for client-side hit detection weapons. And the Vortex Beast added a headshot area. Nice. Yeah. Just in time for us to play with the new sniper rifle. Good luck headshotting them, boys. Good luck headshotting that guy. Lots of minor fixes with animations. I'm interested to see more detail on what this is. Do we think there's ever going to be a point where with the Chaos Spawn, they kind of telegraph the attacks a little bit better? I feel as though very few of the attacks show the parry indicator, and I think that's why a lot of people struggle with them, is almost none of the Chaos Spawn attacks, other than like when they leap at you, are indicated with the blue circles. Especially when they throw up that little dust shield. But we'll see. Customization. Bots use player class customization. Added sorting armor parts by rarity. That's kind of cool, I guess. Fixed the Black Templar champion. Now his chains... fixed Black Templar champion now chains his power sword properly. I'm not sure what that means. Again, if you also know this one, let me know below. Lots of minor customization fixes. Lots of minor fixes with level geometry. Does that mean like us getting stuck on things, or there's just not a whole lot of specifics here. Let's quickly go through the general fixes. Vanguard, the Relentless Fortitude power does not activate when finishing off an enemy with a grapnel launcher. Fix the sniper ability stops recharging and working completely until the end of the match after getting hit during its activation in rare cases. Player can't use Gunstrike on Lictor after perfect dodge in some... Okay, I have encountered this one. I thought it was just me not getting the perfect dodge. Interesting. Assault class perk Overcharge does not increase the damage of charged attacks on any weapon except Thunderhammer. I thought the perk just didn't work, period. So they're saying it only works on Thunderhammer. So hopefully this has been broken for like, what, 6 months? It's about time. Fixed Combat Knife, Combined Onslaught, and Heavy Onslaught perks do not apply to dash attacks. Fixed Combat Knife Shadow Stab is affected by the Combined Onslaught perk instead of the Heavy Onslaught, despite being a heavy attack. Is this in here twice? Combined Onslaught and Heavy Onslaught perks do not apply to dash attacks. They have the same note in here twice. Whoa. Fixed Power Sword. With Speed Restoration perk equipped, contestant health restoration values are swapped between Power and Speed modes second hit in a combo. Fixed Power Sword. Power Restoration does not apply the restoration bonus to the fourth attack from the Slashing Blade perk. The third attack in the light combo misses in some cases. Allegedly, they fixed that. I have never experienced that. Maybe I haven't been paying enough attention. Fixed Thunderhammer. Assault class perks Overcharge buff doesn't buff the second ground slam attack when Seismic Chain Weapon is picked. Oh. Okay. That's a W. Assault's class perk Overcharge doesn't give a 25% buff for Aftershock when Aftershock is improved. When Aftershock improved weapon perk is picked. Interesting. And Aftershock doesn't give a 10% melee damage buff when Aftershock improved perk is picked. So tons of Thunderhammer and tons of Power Sword fixes, and the Combat Knife, I guess, even though this is like doubled up. So W Thunderhammer. Lots of minor bug fixes. Again, I'd like to read those somewhere. Localization bug fixes and UI fixes. Oh, and sound fixes. W. Memory optimization, crash fixes, and general stability improvements. How many times have we crashed during the live stream? How many times? Glad to see. Hopefully this fixes it. Hopefully, especially Xbox players. Hopefully they stop getting disconnected from our parties. We'll see. We'll see. General connectivity improvements. All right, so there you have it, boys. How are we feeling about the update? Patch 11. Again, let me know your post-note clarity thoughts below. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Until next time, see ya.